Hey everybody, I'm here. This is a mini video from our main video to show you the cutting for month 8 $5 quilt in San Antonio. Reason we're doing a video on this is because we have two ways you can make the block. You can use the Eleanor Burns method or you can use the no waste method to make flying geese. So the first one I'm going to show you is cutting for the no waste method, and then we'll have a second video on cutting for the Eleanor Burns method. So Michelle is going to adjust the camera down so you can see what I'm doing when I cut. And I'm just going to cut a little bit of this really quickly for you, but I just want you to see kind of how the cutting goes for this.
Ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
You ready?
Yep.
All right, so this is color number 1. This is, I'm working on the patriotic version, the red, white, and blue. And we often talk about cutting and clean cutting and all those things, and I've really never shown it. So here for the no waste method, we need to cut a 5 1/4 inch square and 4 2 7/8 inch squares. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing I have pre-shrunk, and I'm just going to line my ruler up, and I'm going to take my rotary cutter and I'm going to do what's called clean cut an edge. All I want to know is this edge is very straight. Then I'm going to take the fabric and I'm going to flip it over, and now my first cut is 5 1/4 inches. And this is a kind of an old ruler, but I'm going to find it. Okay, so I have found the 5 1/4 inch line. All right, so I've lined the 5 1/4 line on my ruler up. I'm not worried about up and down because I'm just measuring this distance to get the piece. So I'm going to cut this 5 1/4 inch piece. Notice I've held the ruler. I'm going to pull this away to make sure I have a clean cut. Then I'm going to turn this on its side. I'm going to line a straight line on my ruler up to the bottom of this, making sure that this is straight, and I'm going to clean cut this edge. So now I have this edge cut, this edge cut, this edge cut. They're all straight to each other. I'm going to flip it over and find my 5 1/4 inch. Again, I'm going to put a straight line here, 5 1/4 here, and I'm going to check that it's straight, and I've got 5 1/4 there. It's now square. This would also be a good place to use your square ruler if you have one, but if not, this is going to work. And I cut this off, and there is my 5 1/4 inch square. Now, the next thing I have to do is 4 2 7/8 inch squares. So I am going to, 2 7/8 is not a lot of fun to cut. We do have rulers that are geared for 7/8 inch cuttings, if that's something that would make it easier. But I'm making sure I've got my 2 7/8 little hash marks are on this straight edge. It's already straight because I cut it from there. And I'm going to cut one, and then I'm going to move over, and I'm going to find that 2 7/8 inch mark again. And making sure that it's all lined up, and I'm going to cut another one. Sorry, it's allergies. All right, I'm going to stack these together because I really like to work. I power cut is what I call it. And so I am going to line these up on a straight line. It just helps me eyeball that, but I'm going to, again, slide my ruler up now that I've got it this way. This is called subcutting. Make sure my line is straight. All I care about is that this edge is straight to this edge. Then I'm going to flip it over, and now I'm going to measure the 2 7/8 again. Again, if you have a square ruler, this works pretty well. So there's 1, and then 2 7/8. I've got my lines. I don't use the lines on the mat unless I have to cut something larger than my ruler allows me to cut, because generally your ruler is going to be more accurate than your mat. So color number 1 in the no waste method, I have a 5 1/4 inch square and 4 2 7/8 inch squares. So I just wanted to actually demonstrate that cutting, and hopefully that makes sense for you. Color number 2 is a strip that we're going to strip piece, and you just need to cut this down to 2.5 inches. I'm not going to take the time to show you, but again, you clean cut one side, flip it over, measure 2.5. Don't worry about the length. Because we're strip piecing, we're just going to sew this whole thing to another piece. The center square is going to be cut to a 4.5 inch square. And if you have a square ruler, you can make that's pretty easy. If not, you'll do the same thing, clean cut and measure and do 4.5. And then this is the one I wanted to be sure we talked about because it's the background piece. It is a very large piece because there's lots of pieces to cut. And this is important that you put it on your cutting surface. It's 13.5 by 15.5, and you want the 15 direction, the long direction, going this way.
Towards you.
Horizontal.
Yep.
Okay, so 15 this way, 13 this way, so long going horizontal. Now, the first thing we're going to do is clean cut an edge, and I'm just going to show you a few of these cuts because it's important to understand this. And then we're going to flip it over. Now, the first thing we need to cut, again, to match what we just did, is the 5.25 inch square and 4 2 7/8 inch squares. And I designed this so that we could get the square on top and the little squares on bottom. But if you add 2 7/8 and 2 7/8, essentially 3 and 3 is 6. You don't want to cut a strip at 5.25 then you won't be able to get your 2 7/8 inch squares. So what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and cut a 7-inch strip off of here. It will just protect you from goofing, I guess is what I want to say. All right, so there's a 7. Now I can come in here and clean cut, and I can do a 5.25 piece. Got it? And then I'll cut that into a 5.25 inch square. And now I'll do 2 7/8 inch, 2 of them, and I'll be able to cut those into 2. Get that over. Those little marks sometimes are hard to see. All right. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing. And I'm going to stack these and cut these into 2 2 7/8 inch squares. So that is how you get the first part. Then you need one 2.5 by 11 inch strip. So I'm going to go for the 2.5, and you can see this is a much longer strip than the number 2, but that's okay. We just need that as a strip. And then we need 4 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. So I'm going to go 2.5, and I'm going to go 2.5, and I'm going to cut these into 4.5 inch rectangles. And that's the cutting for the no waste method. We will have a separate video also on how to do the no waste method. So if you're not sure how to do that, you can watch that also. Thanks.